Here we are once again, people. Thank you for tuning in to Nomad Live. I'm your host, Nomad. My guy Samo next to me, and we got a busy show for you today, man. So thanks for coming in, you guys. Patty, Laura, Armando Jr., Jason, Sun Torres 9, AC, Lee Bruin, King Buka. I think I saw Plank up there. Brian Hendren. Thank all you guys for being in the show, man. This should be a good one, man. This is a busy. I think people are calling it Black Monday. I guess I don't know what they're calling. It's been a lot of movement going on so far, man. I've got a long list of guys that have been cut from our team. I'm keeping track of cuts going on elsewhere, so it's a bunch to talk about. But what we're here to do, Samo, is talk to my. I had the pleasure of making acquaintances with Glynn Morgan from NBC Sports Chicago, which he will be on in just a second here. He's one of those guys. The first time I heard him talk on another show, right away I just knew, oh, he knows football. I was just locked into every word he was saying in the description. He was just good at breaking down the elements of football that it's not normal to me to see a reporter be able to do that. So immediately I was attracted to him. I was just thankful that he was able to accept and come to the show, man. I can't wait to talk to him.
Yes, sir. Glynn in the gym, man. He is we're definitely big fans of his. Happy to have him on. Like you said, man, things are on the move right now for the Bears and for the entire NFL. Man, we're trying to build out this roster and see what we're gonna have for this season. Hey, let's talk about it, up.
Right. Hey, without further ado, let's bring Glynn in right now. Glynn, man, how are you, man?
Hey, that's a loaded question, brother. We ain't got that much time. That's a different show. No, I'm good. I'm good, man. It's all good. Hey, I just want to thank you guys again for having me on here. I really do appreciate you guys sharing your platform with me. Thank you very much.
Man, the pleasure is all ours, man. That's no fluff, man. I really do respect your football acumen, man. I heard it right away. I recognized it right away, and I was just like, I'm breaking my neck to get him on the show. And I really do. I mean, so far, there's a lot of movement going on. You are a reporter. So before we get into that, do you have any breaking news you might want to break with us? Anything you might want to tell?
No, I don't have any breaking news. I'm more of the analytical sort. So okay. I take the news in and then try and see and understand and discern what, why, and how come, and where we're going to go to afterwards. So, so I'm more of a evaluator of the information as it comes across. But thank you for being so kind and thinking that I have breaking news. I appreciate it.
I had to take a shot, man. Hey, but let's start off with Travis Gibson. There was a reported trade request out there. It was said that he asked for permission to get a trade, and they granted it to him. Do you have anything confirming or denying any of that?
Can neither confirm nor deny, but I get it. And it's a situation. And if everyone who watching the Bears, if you saw the last preseason game when Poles was in the booth speaking with the guys, Jim Miller and my guy, Double A, he said that, you want to get to the point, organizationally speaking, where the decisions do become tough. That, that means your talent is accruing. And it's going to be more difficult to decide who you keep and who has to stay. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing for the individual who has to leave, because maybe they have an opportunity to shine somewhere else. And we've seen that happen a lot. I mean, we've got Hall of Famers who bounced around, at the position from quarterback to punter. You know what I'm saying? So for him personally, Gibson, I hope he does get to go somewhere else where he's more needed and he can feel more fulfilled and he can play to his capabilities and maybe get that more of an opportunity. Not that he hasn't had one here. I just feel that sometimes in some places it becomes a numbers game. And that's what we're seeing today. We're going to be seeing throughout the course of the next 24 to 36 hours, be a numbers game. Because we're going to see guys leave, and then we're going to see some guys come in that we're like, I thought we didn't have any space, but now you make space because someone fits your system or someone fits your organization a bit better than they did somewhere else. So I think it shows the highest regard and respect for Mr. Gibson, for Travis. You know what? We give you that. We give you that grace to go find someplace else because we love you, but it may not be to your fulfillment here. Like, even if we keep you, we may not be keeping you in the capacity where you feel fulfilled. So Go find your love somewhere else.
You know what, Glynn? The whole time, and I'll say this, and I said it again on Sean's show earlier today on Sports Zone Chicago. Travis Gibson, I take nothing from him. I think he's a hell of a football player, and I respect his effort here. And I think it was more about fit the whole time. Maybe he is better off in the 3-4 stand-up position and rushing the quarterback that way. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know, but I felt that way the whole time. Maybe he's just not good in a 4-down front. And so I think it's more about that than anything else. If any of that's true, it's about it. So I don't know if you agree with that or not.
Yeah, I agree. I think like you just said the key word, and as I was listening to you, was effort. You're a fan of his effort. And that as fans, we see that. It's like, man, but we don't always see the results. And organizations like, look, this is a result-based business. We love your effort. We love you as a person. We respect you. But son, we need production out here. We need something numerically, something tangible. We need something that we can, build on and know that we're going to have it. And all that to say that I think what we saw universally or across the board was just inconsistency, not with the effort, but with the production, with the results. And it's just like, man, Gibson would be shined for like he did in preseason, like the first preseason game, he was everywhere. I'm like, oh man, okay, this is the year. Next week, I'm like, yeah, same thing. I see you shine and you explode for 1 week, and then I don't see or hear your name for a couple of games. I'm like, man, did he play? Oh, he was out there. Oh, he clocked how many plays? 40% of the plays.
Right.
And when you see that over the course of a year, over time, sometimes what happens is people see you for that. They can't see beyond that. And you become a victim or a prisoner of your own success or non-success. And I think that's what happened to him. And the long short of what you're saying, it kind of becomes a numbers game. The effort's there, but son, we gotta move on. And I think that's where the Bears were. But again, I think respect to him. They said, while you can see if you can find something better financially, monetarily, more situational for yourself, before you're out here and becomes a complete meat market, because that's what it's about to be for the next, 24, 36 hours going forward.
No question. So far, did you have something, Samo?
Yeah, man. I know that Glynn was just talking about, it is a production-based business, man. And there were two productive guys out there who were in trade conversation or rumors, involved in trade rumors with the Bears, one being JT, Justin Taylor of the Colts, which has now been debunked, but Chris Jones. Ryan Poles came from that organization in Kansas City, and there's talk that, he's in conversation with Chris Jones. What do you make of that? Are you buying it? And what do you think of that idea of bringing him in?
If we're where the Lions are, respect to everything in terms of us and them right now, without this season being played, you say they're a bit more advanced in their rebuild or restructuring of their organization, to where the Lions are, odds on favorite to go to the playoffs, so on and so forth. Or if we're the Green Bay Packers, and although they had a bad season outside of Aaron Rodgers, a lot of things seem to be in place for them to win now. I think if you're more of in a win now situation, Chris Jones is really good. If you're, say, the Seattle Seahawks, for example, I think that'd be a better, situation for him, or where you're going to pool your resources because you're going to get from him the max of what you need. Because Chris, for what he wants and what you're going to pay, it makes more sense to be in a situation where you're winning now. I don't know if we're there. We could be, but right now you don't have to do that if you're Poles. You're still building, and you still have this season to see where you really are as an organization, so you can really pinpoint exactly what you need going forward. You got 2 first-round picks next year. I don't think you need to blow or spend all your money right now. Sometimes, and also too, if you pay attention to, not just you, I mean everybody. If you paid attention to that last preseason game where he's speaking, he says the hardest thing to do is stay disciplined. So because there's a fan in all of us. That's why we gravitate to the game to begin with. There's a little fan in there's like, go get him. Let's do it now. We got the money. Let's do it. And you're like, man, he's all that he can be defensively. He's one of the top, 3 defensive linemen in the game. So why would you not want him? He's not completely, past his prime or anything like that. He's maybe at He's at the apex, slightly leaning down, but you don't know how much longer that can last. You could talk yourself into it. I'm talking myself into it right now.
Right.
But
we all have.
right. But discipline says I want sustainability, and that means not just financial, but that also means structurally speaking with my roster. Bringing him in, by bringing him in, what do I disturb? What has to change? Because bringing in Yannick, it took a long time before we got Yannick. Yep. You know, you could have got him a long time ago.
Right.
You know, some of it was, you little cat and mouse, blah, blah, blah. But some of it was like, I really need to see what I have. And then when you bring him in, you don't want to bring him in too late. You want to bring him in too soon. You want to bring him in, I don't know when it's just right, but they felt at the time they brought him in was just right, because you need to let some of these guys develop. Because you bring him in, somebody else loses out on reps. You know what I mean? So I got to see what these guys can do. I know what he can do. Then I got to see, make sure he can fit in structurally, fit in, in terms of the mentality and the flow and the vibe of the locker room, fit in with the scheme, with the defensive coordinators, all these things. It's not just one thing. We all play Madden, a lot of us play Madden, and I make that trade and boom, I'm playing. Yeah, but you're controlling everything. It's not real life. Real life, you got to factor in real life things. You got to factor in a whole bunch of things. It's a lot of layers. It's just that onion. If you watch Shrek, you're talking to Donkey. It's a lot of onions. You got to peel them back. A lot of layers. You got to pull them back.
Yep,
so
absolutely.
So I don't believe that bringing in Chris Jones. Right now, Glynn Morgan, don't believe that bringing in Chris Jones is necessarily a solution to a problem I don't know that I have yet.
Glynn, I don't know if you have a list of some of the guys that have been cut so far. So I'm gonna just run through a list of guys, and you tell me which one of these, if any, are Chicago. Bravion Roy, defensive tackle. Logan Stenberg, offensive lineman. Kellen Deesh, offensive lineman. Gabe Huey, offensive lineman. PJ Walker, of course, Alex Leatherwood, Bobby Haskins, Davion Taylor, Michael Ojemudia, Andrew Brown, Doris Fountain, LaChallen Pitts, DeAnthony Jones, Simba Webster, and Barrington Wade. Does any of those guys really jump off to you as a surprise cut at all?
You know what? Not surprised, but disappointing a little bit. But that happens every year, brothers. That happens every year, man. There's a cat or a couple of cats, and you just gravitate to. You're like, oh man, that's my guy.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm pulling. What? How they let him go?
Right.
Why they keep the other dude? And that's tough. And to your question, to some degree, Fountain and Webster and Ojemudia, I thought Oji played really great the last game. Right. He's making plays. I'm like, dude, that's the kind of cat you need. He's gonna be feisty. He's in there, and I'm like, I hope he makes him. I don't know, because it's a numbers game. And here's the thing, fellas. I was thinking about it. As you guys told me what the topic was going to be to some degree, as far as what we're talking about. And I know that's the thing. For the next couple of day or so going forward, I'm like, how beyond this? My question is, and this is a question I'd want to ask, Ryan Poles. Like I'm thinking, like I'm in a booth, a couple of days ago. Like, how do you decide between the talent you see emerging from players you brought in, be it free agency or even some late round draft picks, as opposed to the high draft picks of the ones you spent money on to bring in free agency wise? When do you decide the guy you spent money on or you paid money to, he needs to stay because you paid him the money, so you need to try and justify that, right, as opposed to the talent that you see of a guy that may just be having a really good day or a good week or a good preseason? How do you juxtapose that with players that don't practice well but play well, or practice well but don't play well? Velus Jones comes to mind. Now with Velus, the fans after the first preseason game, like, he's out of here. Right. I'm like, I don't know, because that's a third round pick. That's off his first time as a GM drafting. Right. He likes the University of Tennessee. He likes going to getting players from that school. I'm a big fan of that school myself, having gone there. So when do you separate the heart and the mind from the pragmatic and the fiscal? And to that question, and that's a long question, I have to answer quicker than that, but to that question, how do you make that decision? And at what point do you hold yourself accountable and expect others to hold you accountable? Because to me, what makes you a good GM? To me, what makes you a good GM ultimately is being able to make those tough decisions more than once, and to be able to justify it, but also to have sustainable success from that. And it's tough because I could be thinking all these things as a general manager. The coaches could be thinking, we could be on the same page. The players still got to play. The players still got to execute. And so many things can happen between now and there. You know what I'm saying? Between the field and the locker room, between the field and when you're learning, the plays the week going into a game. So many things can happen outside, with your real life, and then internally with what's going on, in the halls of Hallis Hall. So yeah, that's tough. That's out of your hands is my point.
Right.
At some point you're making the decisions. At the other point, it's out of your hands. And how do you live with that? How do you sleep? I don't know how that brother sleeps. I had a hard time just thinking about that stuff, staying awake before I came to you guys. I don't know how he sleeps.
So, hey, Glynn, I had easily Alex Leatherwood was the intriguing move to me. And our producer, Chris Washington, brought up an interesting way of thinking about the move, because we still owe him $5 million, right? And
I think he still owes some money.
Yeah. He made gains, some really good gains this year versus the way he looked last year. On the left side, I thought he really made some nice gains over there. They waived him, but he brought up an interesting concept that maybe they're waiving him now so that they can fit Tevin Jenkins on the roster and then put him on IR and then bring Leatherwood back. What do you think about a scenario like that?
Oh, what a tangle web we weave. I mean, yeah, man, that's anything's possible. I mean, that's an astute move. You're still taking a chance, obviously. But this, again, is a time of year. And if it's to his point, maybe it's not Leatherwood. Maybe you do that same move with somebody else from another team, other players that have been dropped off of other teams. That's a high possibility as well. I think Leatherwood had a hell of an agent. Congratulations to him for that. But yeah, I mean, anything's possible. Tevin. Here's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing next year Bears draft a guard. I'm looking at the guard from Kansas State. As a matter of fact, I think it's BB Cooper. I'm thinking about him because to me it's like another version of Cody Whitehair to some degree. And Kansas State's done a really good job with the offensive linemen over the last several years, and especially their guards. And I'm thinking Tevin, because we like him, for the most part, we like his attitude, but his play doesn't always match, and his health has been an issue since before he got drafted, to be quite honest. But since he's been drafted, since he's been a Chicago Bear. So going forward, again, this is where the GM, and the other thing too, Poles didn't draft him.
Right.
So yeah, I think Tevin, I mean, I'm sure we're not saying anything these guys don't think about or their agents don't, put in their heads for them to consider. And that's the harsh part of the whole business. But yeah, man, to your point, yeah, I think that's a possibility. You take a chance when you do that, but yeah, that anything could be possible in that regard. And do I think it's a good move? I think it's a protect your, I don't want to say cover your ass move, but I think it's a sensible move.
Right.
A sensible option of a move.
Go ahead, Samuel.
Yeah, it definitely surprised us. We talked about it last night, and we just are seeing that Poles is making those tough decisions, man. Like you said, not only with Alex Leatherwood, with PJ Walker, these are guys that we are still financially obligated to, but he's making that tough decision to just cut those guys loose. And I know in the past regimes would have never done that. So I'm seeing that difference, and it seems like he has full autonomy of the team now, and he's making those tough decisions, man, which is mind-boggling to me. But as far as the injuries go, like you just mentioned with Tevin, man, we just saw like a rash of injuries on this team, especially towards the end of training camp. What do you make of that, and how do you think that's going to project onto this 53-man roster? And do you feel like the tempo and the intensity of the Eberflus training camp has anything to do with that? Because there hasn't been much talk about that.
No, I don't think so. It could, but I don't think so. And even if it does, I think it's I don't think it's endemic. I think it's more of circumstantial. We're concerned because we want the Bears to do well. We're concerned because we know offensive line has been a sticking point for several years. We're concerned because we know in order to have a successful offensive season going forward, we need continuity on offensive line. It's harder to have that if guys aren't healthy and they're not healthy and they get hurt in practice. Like you do something in practice, makes these guys get hurt. We want to point the finger. We want to hold somebody accountable. And sometimes, man, it's just it's pernicious life as a football player. I mean, it's the devil that it's the devil that you welcome into your life, because it's not easy. Everybody was doing it. They'd be talking about us instead of us talking about them. It's not an easy thing. So you're going to have injuries. They happen. It's just that's the nature of football. So whenever anyone asks me, I know I'm going tangential to your question, but I'll get back to it. Whenever anyone asks me, what do you think the team's going to do, or how do you think these teams are going to do, or what's your predictions going forward? First and foremost, I always go, my first account is attrition. How can this team handle attrition? How can this team handle loss from injury? When a team can do that, all right, now you can win. To me, you can win better than 40% of your games. What's the continuity on the team? How long has the coaching staff or the head coach been in place? How long have those players been in place? How much has the system changed throughout? That's why you see teams like the Steelers, Ravens, even, and granted, those coaches haven't changed in a long time, even with New England, as much as we see Brady made a big difference with them winning championships, they're still competitive. Bill Belichick doesn't draft well, but they're still competitive because there's a system in place. And the head coaches have been the same. Offensive coordinators have changed, but they've been within that same. You just saw he brought Bill Bradley back, or Bill. I'm sorry, I always miss his name. Not Bill Bradley, but
know who you're talking about.
Right. I always compare him.
The Texans, the dude from the Texans, head coach of the Texans.
Right, from Penn State. I always mix his name up with the basketball player, became a politician. But he brought him back, because that continuity is in place. Josh McDaniels, when he came back, they picked right up. Garoppolo with Josh McDaniels. Consistency, continuity, and the ability to handle attrition, to me, means you're going to win better than 45% of your games. You pretty much won half the battle right there. The rest is execution, so on and so forth. So, how do you build that? Well, sometimes you got to find out where you're sustainable. And offensive line right now, going into the season, going in even after the draft, because we haven't gotten to the season yet. After the draft, people ask me, I'm like, I'm excited too, but I'm looking 7-8 wins. Oh man, you ain't a Bears fan. Oh, you just a hater. I'm like, dude, I'm not. We're not deep. I'm sorry. We're not deep. The offensive line, even if the starters were going to be what we wanted them to be, they hadn't worked together. It's basically a new line. DJ Moore is a new receiver here. You got a Claypool we're still trying to figure out. Mooney's coming off an ankle injury, and other guys are young. The running back room I felt the best about because it had some veteran leadership there, and it had some youth and had some explosion. And running backs, although it's a skill position, there's not a lot that they have to do differently from college to the pros outside of pass protection. So they can still be instinctual in what they do and still blah, blah, blah. And then you're not just counting on one person. So the running back room I felt the strongest about. Quarterback, okay, I feel good about Justin, always have, but we still need to see what the post-traumatic effects of the last 2 years have done to him. And I'm not saying he's weak-minded. I don't mean that to imply that at all. However, trust issues. He's still developing trust issues. Right now, he trusts too much in DJ. That's good and it's bad. He trusts too much. I don't trust the other cats just yet. Darnell, my boy, ain't back just yet. And Darnell doesn't trust his ankles just yet. You can tell he's not separating like he used to. He's still rounding in the form. So who am I going to? Oh, Cole. Okay, well, he's only going to go so far. I like Cole Kmet, but he's not that vertical tight end. He's not Pitts. He's not Dalton Kincaid that the Buffalo Bills just picked up. He's not that kind of guy. He's good. He's more in the lines of like Freiermuth or maybe, less effective Gronkowski. Hopefully he can, round, but he ain't that vertical guy. So who do I trust? Okay, they told me to start throwing to the running backs, still developing. Defensive front, damn near new for all intents and purposes. Still trying to figure out who actually is going to be the rotation. We know there's going to be a rotation, just trying to figure out how they're going to rotate. And now we just inserted Ngakoue. So now that forces a certain thing in a good way, but also makes you have to constrict what you might have been doing. Linebackers seem to be pretty good, but again, how deep are we behind Edwards, Sanborn, and Edmonds? And so then you go to the secondary. That's where I feel the strongest. There's a lot of depth there, the young guys there, but the young, active, flying bodies all around. Feel good about the secondary, feel good about the running back. They ain't going to win you a whole bunch of games, so you can do the other stuff. So to the long answer to your short question is, I think this is the trial by fire that we're going to have to go through. And this time of the year, when other teams, because of financial reasons or whatever, are letting some players go, this is where you pick up maybe some offensive linemen who do have some experience that may fit the type of scheme and zone running blocking scheme that you have. And then this is also the part where you figure out who you're going to stash in a practice squad and hope nobody else takes it. So That's what I think. I think it's an evolving thing, and I don't think at 3:28 on a Monday we're gonna have that answer until, I think, to be quite honest with you, I don't think we'll see this team evolve offensively until maybe around 1st of October.
That's a good observation, man. I know we only have you for a couple more minutes, but one thing I wanted to ask you about, I wanted to make a point of. I believe that, to me, Deontay Foreman is the better back of the three backs that we have for a couple of different reasons. I know Khalil Herbert is very, very explosive, but when I watch the tape, when I say it, I'm telling people from the standpoint of viewing what I see on tape. Deontay Foreman, to me, I think when the smoke clears, I think is going to end up being the number one back. I don't know where you stand on that, but I'm really impressed with what he's able to do and what he brings to this team.
It's interesting, man. This is where we found out. We've talked so much about, or at least, I was talking so much about polls and decisions that he has to make as a GM. This is where you find out. And some people have said it, and you hear every now and again, the focus is so much on the players. Really, to me, this is the year we found out the most about Eberflus. We found out some things, and I thought they were good. This organization seemed to not just be stuck in, this is how we're going to do it. They're able to adapt. That adaptability, I think, is important, especially from defensive coaches. You don't always see that. They tend to be a bit more conservative. And by conservative, I mean somewhat constrictive in their ideology and how they implement it on the field. I think Eberflus is a bit more flexible with that. Even though he has his hit, I think there's still a humanity in how he coaches, and it comes across and how the players react to him. And the fact that they played so hard and so well in terms of their efforts last year. So now, trying to figure out what to do with the running backs, we're going to find out, is this team going to be, and it gets you well, it's just where we find out, are they flexible and malleable enough like we saw the New England Patriots be, where they use running backs variety. Like some days it was just this dude, another game it was another guy. It's a fantasy owner. It was very frustrating. It's just like, well, which guy are you using? Because it wasn't just a rotation in that game. It'd be a rotation from game to game. Sometimes this guy's better against this type of defense, so I'm going to run with this guy. And I think, to your point, that's what you see in Foreman. I don't disagree. I see a lot of upside in I also see Roschon being maybe the best of both of them if he learns from the both of them going forward. He's not as explosive as Khalil, but I think he has more of a powerful explosion to him. It's like that second surge, and then he has a lot of attitude and nasty to him in a good kind of way. He doesn't go down easy, but he's also flexible, and he has enough wiggle in his, in his moves, and he's also adept at catching the ball, and he's good at pass protection. He's a very smart football player, very intelligent. So I see like, if you want to say 1A, 1B, 1C, I really do. I think you can go, and I think right now Johnson is maybe the younger of the two, so he's the least experienced, but I think his ability to grasp things and move forward, I don't think he's like so far behind. So I think it all depends on the flavor of that day. When you go up against the Packers, you're probably going to roll with Khalil or Foreman. When you going up against a team that's maybe a little bit tougher in the sand, like Washington, their front four, maybe going Foreman, Khalil. You know what I mean? It all depends. It's like a boxer. You this, you that. You kind of shuffle. Am I going to go southpaw today? Am I going to go regular way? So yeah, man, I see what you're saying. But I think it all depends on who you're facing, how they're going to play it. That's how I see it. Then we'll find out. Oh, by the way, man, I got you kicking me off. I guess, if you don't want me to talk no more, that's cool,
Oh,
man.
no. I thought you were just being nice. Hey, man, you can stay as long as you want, man. I'm enjoying it, man. But
Absolutely.
hey, let's start talk about like Bajent, man. I thought Tyson Bajent comported himself well. He put on some nice film. How do you feel about him? I'm from the rule of thought that you need a veteran to play to be a backup. When you got a guy that young, I'm feeling like the best thing for him is to be in a developmental role. Not to say that he can't go out there and play, but you don't want him to be a backup to a guy in his second year in the system. How do you feel about that, or am I off?
Well, I think the San Francisco 49ers would argue with you on that one.
They would. They would.
Mr. Irrelevant took him to the NFC Championship game, and right now he's a starter.
Compared to,
he got one guy got canned, because of the impatience the organization felt because of the pressure that Purdy's success put on him. Purdy's success, Trey Lance's misfortune of being injured last year, being drafted where he was, the onus of those draft picks being on that regime, all of that, and Trey Lance inexperience on the field and just not having an opportunity to really develop. And I'm not saying woe is him. I'm not taking any accountability off of him. This is just a situation as it was. Like, dude needed to play. He wasn't gonna get any better until he played. He didn't play for like damn near 2 years. So how good is he gonna be? Meanwhile, playing for 4 years straight, he came right in. He picked up where he left off at Iowa State. So I don't necessarily agree with you, bro. That the youth part. I see what you're saying, and more times than not, that's probably the case. But when I think about in terms of a quarterback and what your ability to do on the field, I think you make the decisions. I think your play makes the decisions, and it helps it make it for the coaching staff as well. Look back at the Seattle Seahawks when Russell got there. The Seahawks in offseason had got Flynn. I can't remember Flynn's first name.
Matt
they got
Flynn.
him from
Yep.
Matt Flynn. Thank you. LSU Matt Flynn. They got him from the Packers, and he had like one really good game or whatever. End of the season against the Detroit Lions, got him like a $10 million contract or whatever. I think $10 million a year type kind of contract. It's something, free agent money they were throwing around because Seattle felt they were really close. They had the defense, they had a good offensive line, had running back, blah, blah, blah. We just need a quarterback to get us over the top, blah, blah, blah. Draft Russell, I think it was the third round to get Russell. Guy who transferred from NC State, where he was an ACC, I think an ACC first time with NC State, and transferred to Wisconsin and led them to a Rose Bowl. I can't remember if they won or lost, but led them to a Rose Bowl. And they were within a couple of like Hail Marys from really being in a top 4 type kind of team. Russell comes in, and before the preseason is over, he got the starting job. They're trying to figure out what to do with Flynn in that contract. So to me, that lets you know that the Seattle saw what they saw, and they made a business decision. And hey, we made a mistake, but we're not too proud to acknowledge our mistake and move it before we compound that mistake. Everybody makes mistakes, bro. Everybody, And y'all got kids. We've all been kids. At some point you make mistakes. It's when you pound a mistake when people lose their crap over it. You know what I'm saying? So I think with Bajent, all that to say with Bajent. And look, man, the dude didn't put up 150 plus touchdowns for no reason. I know it's at a lower level, but when you watch him play, and that's the other thing too, man, I think we've seen it. We've seen it. If everyone's paying attention, they've seen it over the last year and a half, even more so. These quarterbacks who stayed for 3-4 years and actually played with starters and did well with their teams, they're coming into the pros and they're not looking as raw as some of the guys who had, one good season. You look at Sam Howell with Washington. Sam Howell's going to have a successful season. Oh, he's a 5th-round pick. He didn't do well his last year in North Carolina. He wasn't nothing. All his guys, his talent left him. He wasn't nothing. Like, dude, you can't lose 4 guys to go to the NFL. You know what I'm saying? 2 first-round type talent or guys, day 2 guys, 4 day 2 guys, and they be gone and it not affect you. And if anyone paid attention to that part of his season, the team started to do better. Statistically started doing better because they got used to one another. But that dude he's one of ACC's all-time leading passers, and he put in the time, and you can tell when he plays. It's like, dude, he don't look hurried. People are like, oh, Desmond Ritter, he's in the action. Stop. Every time I hear that, man, I want to punch a wall because the brothers are always inaccurate when they throw the ball. I swear to God, it's just never a Caucasian quarterback is ever inaccurate. He's just process is faster. And just but somehow the brothers are always inaccurate. Oh man, Lamar Jackson's inaccurate. Lamar Jackson's passing percentage in college is way better than Josh Allen's was. Lamar Jackson won the Heisman Trophy. Lamar Jackson's talent left him after he won the Heisman Trophy, and he still put up almost the same, if not better, numbers statistically. Lamar Jackson threw for 3,000 consecutive yards. Anyway, I digress. What I'm trying to say is that Bagent has shown the next level. For a guy who played at the level he played at, to see him, the way he comports himself on the field, as soon as I saw his first drive or the first game, I was like, okay, yeah, I thought so, but I wasn't sure either. But I see, I'm like, yeah, this dude is smooth. He's smooth. I'm like, man, he's got a lot to learn. Everybody does. It's preseason. He's seen, rudimentary defenses, nothing complicated yet, but he sees what he sees, and he's decisive. And that's what you want to see at the very least. And to be quite honest with you, I'm probably may take some shit for it, but he's more decisive with the rock than Fields is.
Oh yeah,
he has been. He's more decisive now. The level that he's playing against, he's not playing against the ones. You know what I'm saying? And but the other thing too is he doesn't have the PTSD that Fields has. He doesn't have the trust. He's like at this point, he's like, hey, I'm playing with pros. This is better than any talent. This is Bagent I'm talking about. This is better than any talent I've ever played with. Whereas Justin's like, I know what pro talent's like, and these guys are it, even though they're my teammates. He's not gonna say it out loud, but he doesn't have Olave and Wilson and Smith and Jigba. He's like, I'm playing with Pettis. I'm playing with a Pac-12. They don't even exist anymore. I'm playing with Washington. So with Bagent, I see what I see. They see what they see. PJ, you're a veteran, but where's your upside compared to this young man? Are we going to the Super Bowl this year? Probably not. So I don't need to keep your contract. Bagent can grow. I don't expect Bagent to want to be better than Fields. I could have a Purdy Lance situation on my hands. I don't think that's the case. But my point is, at some point, you can trade Bagent. So you develop him. Right. And then not only that, but low key, if I'm really sneaky low key, and I don't say anything on polls, I'm like Nomad. I'm a ninja. You don't see my face. What I'm doing is I'm trying to see what my coaching staff is really made of. Can you really develop somebody? Right. I'll give you 2 quarterbacks to develop. Here's a rookie. Here's a guy that you came in that you didn't draft, but here's a guy that's already here. Can you fix what was wrong, and you can what needs to be? And I get to assess you on the low key. So man, like I say, man, it's layers. It's layers to this stuff, man.
Absolutely. So do you believe in what Poles has done to, help Justin Fields to take the next step, and all the pieces that he's put around him, and how far do you think Justin can go? Like, how much do you believe that he can become, that number one guy and one of the top quarterbacks in the league? Or do you think he's going to be one of the average guys in the field, and just be, maybe a game manager? Like, what do you see so far or believe?
Yeah. Candidly, I think Poles is a piece of crap and a duplicitous son of a bitch who tells us everything that he doesn't want. No, I think Poles is doing a really good job of being himself and being very, when I say that, I don't mean that condescendingly or I'm not side-eyeing him when I say that. I'm saying that he's very comfortable in his skin. If you listen to him, everything he said, he's pretty much done. He's not misleading. He's not disingenuous. He comes across very authentically to me. You may not like what you hear. You may not like the decision that he has to make once it affects your life. I think he realizes that too. And I think he's going to be as humane and as respectful in his position as he can be to the players without, compromising himself. But everything he and Eberflus said from the day one, they follow through on. They pretty much said, I've been like, it's consistent. So I think so that's what I think of him personally. As far as to answer your question, what has he done to help Justin? I believe he really didn't know if he was going to keep Justin once he got here. I think Justin showed things that we don't see because we're not there every day. I think because Justin is a person from my vantage point is a very intense individual, and very his intent is very much in the open as well, in terms of he's all about football. He's about winning. He's not about that BS. I mean, you don't hear the kid being out here doing this, doing that, whatever. You don't hear about anything other than, his football, acumen, and his football intensity. He doesn't despair. I'm talking about Justin now, doesn't disparage anybody. So I'm getting at the point that he showed a lot of leadership. And he dealt with a lot last year where he could have been throwing a lot of people under the bus. Most people wouldn't have blamed him. It would have been a very human thing to do. You look at him as opposed to what the Giants, or not the Giants, what the Jets got with Zach Wilson. Just like, all right, punk ass motherfucker was thinking right there. Okay? That's what I was thinking. I mean,
that's what we all were thinking.
When he got drafted, and I'm like, okay, I know I'm profiling here. Everybody does it. I'm profiling here, but I think this is draft now. I'm like, okay, he's cheesing now. We'll see what happens. And then by mid-season, Garrett Wilson's like, man, this. I'm like, wow, you got your rookie wide receiver more or less saying you're a piece of crap. Okay, and then stuff with his mom came out. I'm like, okay, I'm dealing with a young man from entitled Utah land. Okay, I see what this is about. And so, as opposed to, and I'm like, that's what you get in New York. You should have took Justin. You made your own bed, not lying it. So then they got lucky and got Rodgers. Different story. I digress. But to the point we talking about with Justin, I think those are things that we didn't see that Poles saw, along with just it's hard to replace athletically what he can do. Okay, I don't just mean with his feet. I mean, young man can throw the rock. He's got the arm. He just has to be decisive. So I think he saw the strengths, and I think he recognized where the weaknesses were, and he's put things in place to help those things get better, help those things, mature into what we need it to be. So as far as going forward, I really believe, and I've believed in Justin pretty much since I saw him on QB1, high school or whatever it was. I can't remember the title of it. It was the second season. And I didn't get to see all the second season, but I saw enough of it. And I was like, man, who's this grown ass man pretending to be a kid? And not just because of his stature, but he's pretty much kind of mature for the most part. And then when he wasn't, his old man called him on. I'm like, dude, it did my heart good to see us portrayed as a family unit. And by us, anybody listening, and I don't care if I offend, I'm talking about Black America. I'm talking about America part that I'm part of. I rolled up. It's like, how come whenever a lot of times we're portrayed as just single parent home and broken home, or need to get out of this, I need football. Say, I'm not knocking anybody, whatever it saves you. I'm not knocking it, but that's not everybody's damn story. Okay. Right. Justin doesn't need football to be Justin. He has his own education. He's mom and dad, sister. When he got drafted, first thing I noted the night he got drafted, I said, dude, there's no entourage. That's a tight knit family. Yeah. That just became a corporation when he became a first round draft pick. That family is going to unilaterally, use this as a point to launch whatever they want to do as a family, and they're going to do what you should do, But sometimes it's not expected of us. But Justin's a leader. His mind is in a good space. And then the next thing I saw him on was, hey, you're a rookie, or whatever it was. They focused on the rookies. It was him and Micah Parsons and Kyle Pitts, and I forget who the other the cornerback from Horn, JC Horn. And when everyone had their situation where they were individually doing their own thing, and Micah's with his boy eating ice cream or whatever, and Horn's with his family doing something. Damn, Justin's in a weight room pumping up stuff. I'm like, dude, get a life. What are you doing? I mean, you're 20-something years old, and you're in the weight room. This is your time off. This is where you're taking us. His best friend is Uno. This is his dog. So I'm like, okay, this kid's a gym rat. Football. It's all about football with him. He's cool. And then his family's like, hey, Chicago's the best place. His dad, I think his dad's a police officer, if I remember, or some type of law enforcement. I think his mother's an educator. Hey, man, you discipline. Okay. You ain't worried about that. So there are some things, and I know I'm long-winded with this stuff, but there are some things that you can't replace, that are not easy. I should say can't replace, but aren't easy to replace or easy to find, and that's the quality of the person you're dealing with, along with the aspects of their whatever physicality or the physical traits they may have. So if all we need, Bears organization need to do is get you to get the ball out your hand quicker, trust your players, see things a little bit, and that's it. I mean, that's a lot easier than I need you in the playbook. You know, Michael Vick, I ain't never seen your playbook until I went to Philadelphia. You know, Zach Wilson, you don't have to be a teammate. I don't like you. I mean, like I said, man, it's more than just one thing. It's more than just throwing a rock. It's more than just, you know, are his feet pointing in the right direction. It's more process and what we think someone's ability to process quickly is or isn't. There's more to it than that. And I think polls evaluates things on a macro level with micro specificity. And I think that's where you want, because you're going to get someone that's looking at everything in totality, but can see it in its parts as well, which isn't easy to do. And I think a successful general manager can do those things. You look at what Philadelphia has been doing since Rosenbaum has been there. It's basically constructed 2 type of Super Bowl caliber units. You know, that's a great thing. You know, you look at what the Steelers have done. Look, man, I'm certain of a certain age, and in my lifetime, I had 3 head coaches for the Pittsburgh Steelers. 3.
Yep.
3.
That's
Since I've been at NBC Sports Chicago / Comcast, I've seen 4 general managers.
Right.
Sad, man.
There, man. That's definitely something different. Hey, Glenn, we had a spirited little discussion about somebody I think you have some thoughts about. Tyreek Stevenson. They
Never
were
heard
on him. Oh,
No, joking,
they were
joking.
on him. They were on him, and my co-hosts were on him. They were like, "Hey, he needs to grow up. He needs to calm down. He don't need to be doing all that talk." I'm like, "Listen, man. Listen, what did you think you were getting? He came from Miami. If you know anything about Miami football players and especially Miami cornerbacks, DBs, they're chirpy and they're aggressive and they're physical. That's the edge that he brought to the team. And I understand what they were saying. I definitely get it, but when you address something like that, you got to be careful not to make sure that he maintains the edge that you got. That's the reason why he's here. The physicality that he plays with, the edge that he brings to the defense. And so you want to monitor that, but you don't want to go so far so that he stops being himself. And so that was my argument with my co-host that day. So go ahead.
Well, I'm on your side. I'm on your side. You know, and I don't, you know, I don't purport to know where everybody's from. I'm from the South Side of Chicago. Like, dude, like talking. That's and what?
Dude,
that's what you're supposed to do. I mean, you know, that don't mean, you know, that don't mean BS. That don't mean nothing to me. By your token, by what you're saying, same token, it's like, you know, he was at Georgia before he transferred to Miami. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, dude, can you imagine the chirping that went on with those 2 defenses? Those are 2 national championship caliber defenses that he left. Okay. And he was playing. He just didn't want to be in that position. He wanted to be in that rover type position. He wanted to be more of a boundary corner. Hey, you know who you are and what you want to be, and you're not getting it. I'm so glad that college landscape is as such now. You can be more of the captain of your own ship. You can navigate and narrate your own story. So he took his talents to Miami, to South Beach. And although he didn't win a national championship or anything like that, you know, he was one of I think he was like 2nd team all ACC, something like that. But the way he plays, man, that's what stood out to me. I'm like, this dude don't take nothing off nobody. He's physical. I'm not saying he loves to tackle, but he don't run from it. You know, he will deliver a physical blow. And right now, all the mistakes he's making are born from youthful exuberance and excess. And you're right. You don't want to, you know, you can't come across. This other thing, man, I swear to God, dude. Y'all realize right now, I want to punch a wall. I want to take my laptop and throw it against the wall because I get so incensed when people start saying things like, he needs to be controlled. Or, you know, you get a coach who can control him. I'm like, dude, hold on. First off, not an animal. I may work for what I'm getting, but you don't own me.
Right.
You can't control me because I'm a human being. And I get what you mean, but you don't understand what you mean, how much that can be offensive and how much that can be pandering to a mentality that's not conducive to the betterment of what that person can actually bring. Talk to him like a man, you know. And this is where this is why I didn't think Jalen Carter should have been here just yet, because you need to have a locker room where your coworkers, i.e. your teammates, they can talk to you. They can talk to you on a level, because it's not an authoritarian level. They can talk to you on a level like, dude, get your shit together. You know, like, bro, like, I got you. But they can do both. You know, I don't know about you guys. I have 4 siblings. There are 2 older sisters and 2 older brothers. You know, my parents at some point, they didn't always say stuff to me. Your brothers and sisters, they teach you. They've been here longer. They know the ropes. They'll teach you what it is. You know, you learn from them, and that's a different kind of education. If you got good friends around you, boys, you know, your fellows that you grew up with, or maybe some of the ladies you grew up with, maybe down with you. You know, they're the ones that kind of keep you in a good space. Just like they can bring you in a bad space, they can also have you in a good space. So for Jalen's sake as a human being, I was happy for him that he wound up in the state of Pennsylvania, because I thought whether it was with the Eagles or with the Steelers, he was going to be in a better situation where people knew how to talk to him and treat him as a human being. And that's going to help you more down the stretch, teach you how to fish, not just for a day, but for the rest of your life. So with Tyreek, you know, with that unit, Eddie's enough of a veteran right now. Brisker and those guys are his peers, you know, age-wise, but they've been here for a year. But Brisker plays with the same kind of intensity, you know? So he's going to respect those guys as long as they're being respectful of him. And I think to Eberflus's credit, he didn't try and say, yeah, we got to do. He was like, you know, we understand, but we're not. We want we want some of what he's bringing. That's why we got him here. But he's gonna learn preseason where that can hurt the team, and then it's up to him to make the decision. If he doesn't, you know, we'll deal with it then. But Tyreek, by no means, man. I mean, dude, that being said, brother should have had 3 picks this preseason. In every single game, he had an opportunity to pick off the ball. And when he did pick off, was just what I saw when I watched him. Because there's so many times when I watched him when he was in college, or from what I saw what he did in college, where he was all on a dude, and it seemed almost like at the last second, while he wasn't even looking, or he turned at the right time and knocked the ball away. I'm like, he's paying attention. He's got to be reading the receiver's eyes. He's got to be reading the receiver's movements for him to turn around and make a play. And like when he made that pick on the sidelines, I'm like, dude, his back was still, for the most part. He turned around at the last second, and we see it in slow motion. He turned around the last second, and then he caught it because he said, I got to make the catches, because he realized he was letting them drop 2 weeks ago, the prior 2 weeks. He made the catch, and it wasn't an easy catch because, he caught it when he turned around, but he kept his feet in. I'm like, dude, y'all don't understand. Y'all don't understand how difficult that is. And if you're seeing that now, he's only going to get better. So, yeah. Did he make some? I think one of those mistakes, actually, a couple of those penalties he got baited into because he's young. It was a nuance. I'm like, dude, that's not even really a penalty. I'm like, dude kind of fell on the first time. I'm like, dude just fell. he ran into, made it look like it did. And I've done that. You be playing ball, you lock your arm in, ref, he got me. You know, you try to get a rebound. Oh, he got me. While your other arm is locked in him, look like he's holding you down. And you get the penalty. That's just called being savvy. He's not football, NFL, professional savvy yet, but he's learning. Every mistake he gets exposed to, I think he'll only get better. And I'm with you. Don't curtail him. Just make him aware, and then let him let him mature. That's part of maturing, man. Maturing is you learn through your own mistakes, not because I just told you and because I own you and I controlled you. That's some BS, man. I almost threw my laptop again. Sorry.
I absolutely agree with everything you just said there, man. I want them to stay aggressive. And I think that the leadership on the team, especially guys like Eddie, we didn't have our leaders on the team. We didn't have Tremaine Edmonds, Eddie Jackson, and, DeMarcus Walker's, the guys we expect to be our leaders on the field to, reel him in sometimes when he's just falling off a little bit to, keep him from getting those penalties. But as far as the aggression on the field, man, we want him to maintain that. And I agree that interception showed a lot of savvy in it that we haven't seen in a while. We know from our cornerbacks, so it's welcomed, and I'm hoping we see more of that this year, man.
So I always thought from the beginning when we got Tyreek Stevenson that he was he's got something to him that I don't think was out there. It's a lot of brash, cocky corners out there, but the traits that he brings to the table. But with that being said, I want to make sure people in this chat and everybody watching the show, whether it's now or later, remember this: he's a rookie. He's going to get targeted early, often. He's not going to look so good all the time. But just know this: when he has enough reps under his belt, it's just going to grow him, and he's just going to become more sharp, more disciplined once he's seen enough. Just like Kyler Gordon last year, he got picked on, and they took advantage of him. But Kyler Gordon is a different football player today than he was when he walked in that door. He looks more like the Washington corner that we saw on tape. And so just look forward to that. But you go ahead, Glenn. I feel really good about Tyreek Stevenson. I mean, really good.
Dude, you speaking to the head of the. Well, I don't know if I'm the head, but I'm definitely in the Tyreek Stevenson back, bro. I remember this was before the draft, and I think I was on our Bears Under Center podcast, and they were asking me like, well, who do you think's out there no one's really talking about, or besides, at the time we're talking left tackle. I remember I was talking like Paris Johnson and Broderick Jones, who went to Pittsburgh, and they was like, who do you see else? A different position. I said, man, dude, there's somebody I haven't heard anybody talking about, really. I'm not saying that nobody was. I hadn't heard about him talking. I said, this is dude out of Miami, Tyreek Stevenson. I'm like, man, just to watch him play. And that was me pumping him up then. And then I was on another platform. I'm like, and they looked at me like I was crazy, which, I get that at home. My wife looks at me like that all the time. I'm not saying she's wrong. She may be right too, but I was like, I believe he will have a great opportunity, and I think he has it within him to be the rookie defensive player of the year, because of what you just said earlier was one of my reasons. He's going to be targeted. They're going to come at him. The Bears defensive line, and this was before we got Yannick, but this is when I had this epiphany, more or less, was that Eberflus, when he was the DC over at Indianapolis, the 4 years I believe he was there, I think they averaged 14 or 15 interceptions a year. And his last season there, they had 19. Now, that being said, pressure-wise, they averaged about 120 plus pressures a season. Now, last year, we only had like 86, I believe, or under 90 pressures. It was pretty woeful as a team. Not one person, but as a team. But we still had 14 interceptions. Okay, so now we have a defensive line where the edge rushers aren't really of note just yet. And this is before we had Yannick. So now we got Yannick, so that helps. But that pressure was going to come from the middle. And we saw it in the last preseason game. I'm thinking like, yes, this is exactly what I'm talking about, where Javon got his arms up. Big ass dude in the middle of the field. Get his arms up. Whether he knocks it down or not, you have to you got to account for that. He has to throw, even if you don't tip it, you got to throw over it. So that arc is different now. On top of that, you've got long arm, athletic Urlacher Jr. and Tremaine Edmonds out there in the middle of the field with his lateral ability going backward and forward, up and down. And TJ Edwards, two really good defense linebackers who are good in coverage. So you got to throw over a tall dude and maybe in between the linebackers. Or if you throw it over the tall dude, try to get past the linebackers, you got to get it down before our secondary can make a play on it, and you hoping nobody tips the ball. Now, we got a very young and active secondary that with no help last year, more or less from the front seven, they got 14 interceptions. What do you think's going to happen this year now that Gordon knows what he's doing, and he's going to be in that nickel slot primarily? Exactly. He's going to be making plays with the ball, and because they're coming at his direction, he being Tyreek coming his direction, he has an opportunity to make plays, just like what we saw last week. Dude, 3 preseason games, he can have 3 picks. To be quite honest with you, all 3 of the one he picked off was the hardest one.
Right.
The other ones hit him in the hands.
Were easier. Right. So I'm looking at, I'm not saying he's Sauce Gardner, but Sauce is a rookie as well. And I think Sauce had 5 picks last year. I'm looking at, he became defensive rookie of the year in the AFC. So I'm like, look, dude, you need about 4 to 5. Oh, here's the thing. And what's my brother in Seattle? Super fast.
Corner?
Say again?
Is it
cornerback?
A corner?
Yeah, he was a 5th round pick. He's like 4.2 speed, 4.29 speed.
Talking about
Woolen? Is it Woolen?
His name now.
Something Woolen, I think is his last name, or whatever.
Tyreek.
Yes.
Tyreek Woolen.
No, Tyreek. So I'm looking at him. I'm like, for the longest time, he was in the front runner, to be defensive rookie of the year. And I think he had like 5 picks last year. So I'm like, dude, they're gonna come at you. You can possibly get 4 to 5 picks. I see our Tyreek Stevenson getting anywhere from as little as, I say his floor as far as PBUs are 8. But the way he knocks the ball down and sticks with the receivers, I think he'll get around 12, to be quite honest with you. I think anywhere between 10 to 12 PBUs, 4 to 6 interceptions, with about 65 to 70 tackles. I think that puts you in the running for Defensive Rookie of the Year. And if the Bears do well as a team, and there are going to be some prime games because we've got a couple of Thursday night games, Sunday night game, and what have you, they being those who vote get a chance to see you. Yeah, man. Yeah, bro. And it's Chicago. You'll get some of the votes too because it's Chicago.
Those long arms of his are gonna make him right even when he's wrong sometimes.
Exactly. And he's not slow. And here's the other thing. Here's what no one else is. I shouldn't say no one else. I'm assuming no one else is doing it. The Bears drafted 2 really good cornerbacks. Terrell Smith ain't no joke.
Yeah,
he's no joke. And he's breathing hot. He's breathing hot and heavy on Stevenson. So the pressure from competition is going to make Tariq play even more. You see what I'm saying? Because Smith is like, no, dude, no, I want that too. Ain't nobody talking about me. And I think he probably snatch better. You know, it all depends on where you're snatching from. And here's the other thing, Jalen, when it comes to your contract, really think long and hard. Yeah, well, you know, think long and hard. Hoping you got, you know, a contingency plan because these are 2. And that Smith's gonna get that. He's gonna play. They all gonna play. But yeah, man, I think all that to say, and again, I know you asked me questions like 5 minutes later, but all that to say, bro, I think Stevenson, I think very highly of him, and I think that he should be on the all rookie defensive team if he stays healthy. I don't see any reason why he can't be an all defensive rookie team.
Well, man, you know what, Glenn? I can talk. Glenn is the type of guy I can pull up at the bar, man. Hey, get some suds, man. Let's get it, man. We turn the game on and just do how football people do, man. I can talk to you all day, and I mean it. I just love this conversation. I'm enjoying every second of it. But we were at a hard wrap at 4 because Samo's got to get out of here.
My bad, bro. My bad.
No, sir. You good, Glenn. Man, we got to do this again, though, brother.
Hey, anytime, fellas. Anytime.
Glenn, man, that was too much, man. You were too generous to us, man. I'm gonna stay in contact with you, man. I really do appreciate you coming to the show, man. You gave us a bunch of good, sobering insights to a lot of things too. But man, I'm excited about this season. Really excited about the season because I think when they gel, once everything starts to gel and they get time on task together, we're gonna see a completely different football team than we saw last year. So, with that to look forward to, man, Glenn, thank you again. I will be in contact with you soon. Give them a shout out to give them your 411, man.
Oh, appreciate you guys. Again, you can catch me out on NBC Sports Chicago from time to time. Understood the podcast. Football Night in Chicago. Actually, got one coming on tonight. Football Night in Chicago. They're streaming it, so I'll be on that one. And I have my own podcast with my partners. It's Easy, the letters E and Z, Easy Smoke and the GM podcast. And I'll talk. You just hit me at True Glynn Morgan on Twitter or X, or whatever the hell they call it these days.
Appreciate you so much, Glenn, man. I will be in contact as soon as possible, man. Thank you.
Hey, appreciate you guys. Much love. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Right. Appreciate you, brother.
Peace.
All right.
That's Glenn Morgan from NBC Sports Chicago. That was fun, man. That was really fun. And let's bring kids in, man. What did you think about, man? I told you he was really good, didn't I? Didn't I tell you that?
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. I think I've had the opportunity to watch Glynn maybe once or twice, not very frequently. It was really refreshing to hear his take on all kinds of stuff, Tyreek Stevenson, et cetera, et cetera. The black man in America, I got to throw that out there. That was actually an impressive part of the conversation, and it resonated with me right away, mainly because I'm a Canadian. But secondarily, because we were talking about it, very similar things last night, and we kind of, as a team, decided to stray away from it a little bit because it's, that's some deep topics that we're getting into, and Glynn just tackled it like it wasn't no thing, right? He just walked right into it, like a professional
that he is, man.
Absolutely.
Glynn is a gem to us, man. We definitely want to get him back on the show, and not just one time, but we need to get him back on here often, man, for sure. Because that was.
I also like the fact that he he shut down both of y'all's Chris Jones love.
Chris Jones, hey, yeah, he did shoot that
can
down.
dream,
He did let the air out of our balloon, didn't he? It's all
dream,
good.
man. I'm gonna dream every night if I can, man.
I know you will, man. I know you will. I know you both
definitely
will. To be honest with you, you both are pounding the table for him. Again, it would be awesome to get him. I just don't see it being in the cards, mind you. You know,
I think Jonathan Taylor is more likely anyway, but yeah, that's a whole.
It's so interesting with that one. The only reason I think it's more likely is because we have backs that we could trade over there and make it work out. That's the only reason I think it's more likely. Outside of that, like, I wouldn't be spending big money on a running back either. Yeah. The market has denoted that it's not the thing to do. Do we jump and do that? As a young GM, do you jump and do that, Ryan Post? I don't know. I think the answer to that might come again by week 3 if we're really having some level of trouble running the ball. And we had 0 trouble running the ball last year. I'll have a hard time thinking that we'll have a problem running the ball this year.
Man, I want to say this before we get out of here. Hey, I'm gonna keep saying, you're gonna hear me say this time and time again. If you enjoyed that content we just created just now and stuff like that, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe. It only helps us produce better and better content. It's a way to show you solidarity with the guys, man. So make sure you be generous to do that. Do that for us, man. So with that being said, let's go around the horn one time, man, because I actually do have to get out of here. My chores are catching up with me, and I don't want to get choked out with my girlfriend come back home.
Yeah, I got to take care of some business as well. Shout out to everybody in the chat who was rocking with us, man. All the Nomaniacs, we appreciate you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Glynn, like I said, man, that man is a gem. We definitely going to try to get him on the show again and try to get him on the show often. I think he has a refreshing voice that you don't get to hear all the time, and perspective that you don't get to hear all the time from just, the talking heads for the Bears, man, all of the Bears media. So, I'll leave it right there. Kez, what you got, baby?
I just want to say thanks to Glynn Morgan for coming out, sharing the spotlight with you two. It was awesome to hear. It was awesome to be a part of. The chat was bumping. I don't know if you guys were paying any attention. Chat was bumping. Got to throw it back to the chat. King Booker, as always. Damon 1599, J2K, Derek Carter. I see some new heads out there. Where's Will Wright? Will Wright, this is the first time I'm seeing you. What up? What up? Where goes one? What's up? Cornelius Squalls. I could go on and on. Thanks for representing with us, guys. There's about 60 odd of y'all in the chat watching right now. Bang up that like button, please. Smash that baby. Give us some love, and we'll keep this thing rocking and rolling moving forward. No maniacs, big ups.
Amen. Go ahead, Samuel.
I went, baby. I went.
Okay.
Your go, man.
All right. Hey, man, look. Everything they just said times 100. Let's try this one more time, fellas, before we get out of here. We tried this the other night, man. We failed miserably. Let's do this in unison. I'm going to say Nomad Live, all Bears, and we say it all together, say all the time. Just that simple. This is Nomad Live, all Bears,
all the time.
We blew it again, man. Let's get
do it again. We'll work on this. We'll get this. We'll bring this up.
All right, man, y'all. Peace and love, man.
Peace.